Hello, millionaires. Welcome to the Millionaire Money Podcast, episode 20. Today, we're going to be talking and we're going to be having a really deep conversation. I'm going to share a confession with you guys. And we're going to talk about how you can create massive success even after you hit massive failure. Let's go. All right, people. It has been a hot minute since our last episode. I think it's been about 5 months since our last episode. And first of all, today I'm going to be confessing to you guys why it's taken so long for me to do this episode and to kind of rejig the podcast. You guys are going to hear a little bit of the inner workings of my mind. And you're going to actually hear one of the mindset roadblocks that came up for me this year. And the second thing that we're going to be talking about, well, actually, this is going to be the main focus, is what happens when you truly feel like you failed at something. How do you get yourself back up? And not just get yourself back up like, struggling, I'm just holding on, just trying to make it and get through. But like, how do you actually get back and like kill it? Like do really, really good. So how do you build massive success even out of what feels like massive failure? And I'm also going to be talking to you guys about how do you get your joy back in your work, even if you miss the goal. And sometimes I talk about like you feel like you missed a goal or whatever, but y'all know I'm a financial coach. We're talking about building multi-millions of dollars, and goals are goals, numbers are numbers, data doesn't lie. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what really happened this year. So the main reason that, first of all, you need to understand this stuff, and the main reason I decided to start here, because of course I could have come back on the podcast and I could have just taught a new training, right? I'm training y'all to be able to build millions of dollars in your businesses, in your lives, and enjoy that lifestyle. And I could very easily have jumped into the podcast and been like, well, let me just go ahead and start teaching y'all those lessons out there. But I felt it would be more valuable for me to have this really, really honest conversation with you guys, because the honest truth is everybody misses their goals sometimes. Everybody fails sometimes. If you follow me at all, you know that I am extremely transparent. I think it's one of our superpowers in the work that we do. I'm transparent as I win. I'm transparent as I trip. And so I'm just going to put it all on the table with y'all. Why? Because if you don't understand how to get back from what feels like massive failure, what feels like disappointment, you are going to sabotage yourself. Because everybody, like I said, everybody fails at one point or the other in their lives. And some of you guys are listening to this and you're like, Toyin, there is no such thing as failure. I never fail. I only learn. Listen, that means you are not attempting something bigger than yourself. If you really are attempting things that are bigger than you, if you're really building things that are more than what you've built already, yeah, you're gonna hit your face on the ground and it's gonna feel like failure, and you can jazz it up all you want, but in your heart of hearts, you know that it feels like failure. So I'm just gonna talk real, and I'm gonna talk to your heart, even if you're not gonna talk to your heart. All right. So what happens if you don't address this? What happens if you can't get this honest with yourself? If you can't figure out how to get back to yourself, how to get back to your business, how to get back to your finances, what happens? One, you sabotage yourself. So what happens is you start running away from the entire conversation, because you can feel amazing in every other area of your life. You could be winning in every other area of your life. And then in the financial area, it's like, I don't feel like my superpower self, so I'm just going to ignore it. Or I'm just going to like procrastinate. And so what we don't ever say, I'm just going to procrastinate, guys. We procrastinate, okay? So you literally just start pushing that thing off. You start spending less and less time trying to do the things in your business that you know you need to do. You don't know why. You just can't seem to get back into your groove. You just can't seem to get your mojo back. And for a lot of people, when they get into this place, they actually quit on the dream. Like they quit. They just leave the whole thing because it's taken so long. And then the longer it takes, the longer they're like, oh, see, look, and it's failure into failure into failure into failure until they're like, okay, well, ooh, shiny object. I'm just going to jump to the very next thing. So this is an extremely important conversation, not just for you guys, but it's important for your family members. It is important for your friends. Guys, if you love anybody, send them this episode. Why? Because everybody hits this challenge. Everybody hits a point in time where things do not happen the way they had envisioned it was going to go. Everybody hits a point in time where they feel like, I could have done better. I could have done more. I know myself. And so just want to say that, like, if you're listening to this one episode of all the episodes you've ever heard me do, this is the one that you want to share and send to your people so that they know how to not stay there. So that you're not the one having to take their 2 a.m. calls and they're like, I just don't know how to get back up. I just don't know. I don't know how to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. You're not going to be the one getting those calls. Okay, let's talk about it. So the first thing I want to say about failure is this. A lot of people have this like conversation of you never fail. And I think it is a good conversation in the place of you do truly always learn anytime you have a challenge. The desire of that conversation is that you're not afraid of failure, right? So you never fail. Everything is always great. Everything is always wonderful. But I find that there is this unhealthy extreme that goes to where even when we truly deeply feel disappointed, when we truly deeply feel like we have let ourselves down or let somebody else down, we don't give ourselves permission to acknowledge that, because everything has to be great and everything has to be wonderful and you have to be on point with your mindset at every single moment. And so you're talking to people and you're like, oh yeah. Like people are looking at you like, how are you? How are you doing? And, oh, I'm great. Oh, I'm wonderful. And it's like you're never, ever, ever feeling it. While the truth is, no matter how amazing you are in your mindset, with the work that you do, in the self-development and personal development area, if you're truly attempting things that are bigger than yourself, like I've said, you are going to fall down. There are going to be things you don't control life. None of us control life. And so there are things that are going to happen that are not the way you thought it was going to happen. Or you're going to do it all right and still feel like you didn't get the results that you expected to get. And so it's extremely important that we can talk about failure. And we can acknowledge it and we can be honest with it. You know, there's going to be times where you botched it up. Not somebody else, not your team members, not your clients. You botched it up. And you got to be able to acknowledge that. The second school of thought goes along the lines of failure is final, right? So a lot of people also carry this mentality like, I failed. And because I failed, it's all over. Flush the baby down with the bathwater. End the business, shut down the press. I'm quitting my job because I failed. Of course, I'm exaggerating. Y'all know me, okay? This is how I go. If you're gonna listen to my podcast, better get used to this. I'm exaggerating right now, but a lot of us actually live that way. Like we fail at something and we think that because it's not going the way that we want, it's all over. Let's shut it down. Let's stop right now, and all these different things. So what I want to talk to you is a healthy way to approach this conversation. And I'm actually going to be doing this from my perspective this year. So this is where this podcast episode is going to get very real. Here's my confession. So I want to say this because this was me in the month of November. As many of you guys know, if you've been tracking with the podcast, we've been running together. I had my baby. So I've been pregnant literally this entire year. I was pregnant from the end of December all the way, had a baby in September. And so in October, I just came back into the business, like really starting to come back into things. And by November, I was like, okay, I'm back, baby. You know, where I took our staff team, our clients, we all went out to the Dominican Republic, threw down some fire on them to be able to explode their businesses, like new vision, new mission. There's so much happening. And so November was really my comeback month. And y'all know me, I'm 100 or 0. Like if I'm in, I'm in. So November is my comeback month. And in that month, I was technically planning on probably by the last week of November, because we did a lot of traveling. So by the last week of November, my plan was to get back and do the podcast, which is just like last week. So it was time for me to get back and do the podcast. Now, here's the thing, y'all. If you follow me, if you know me personally, in any way, if you're a client of mine or you've been in my ethos, you probably know that I cannot do fake. I can't do fake. I cannot do fake friendships. I can't do fake, fake money. The people that are like, oh, look at me, I have all this money, and they don't really have that money. I don't even know how people can do that. Like the ones that will go rent Airbnb office to be able to show their house as if it's their house. So like I see these memes of like people going to like dealerships. So like a Lamborghini dealership. Some of y'all probably saw this one too. This woman went to a Lamborghini dealership and stood with the car to take photos for her Instagram. And the dealer took a video and exposed her. It was hilarious. But like, I honestly couldn't even do that stuff if I wanted to. Like I can't. I can't do fake advertisements. My friends laugh at me because I have zero poker face. Okay, so if you're telling me something, like they can read me like a book. They can read me like a book. So anyway, last week of November, I'm supposed to come in and do this podcast. And I was just like, no. I'm not going to do fake. I can't do fake. I'm not doing a podcast if I don't feel like doing a podcast. And I'm not saying it out of like, I'm not going to do it if I don't feel like it. There's many times when it's time to show up and train or coach or record a podcast or whatever it is, and I don't feel like it, and you stand up and you work because that's what you do. That's discipline. But I'm talking about I didn't feel like it, not out of a lack of discipline, because I was doing everything in the business. I'm back. But I just didn't want to do this. As soon as I saw the hesitation in myself on the podcast, because everything else was like, boom, let's run. Once I saw the hesitation, I knew, there's something here. What's going on, Toyin? And it was very interesting because I actually leveraged. So if you're a client of mine, some of you guys in my community, you know that we have a trademarked neuroscience process called the diamond effect that we use to actually look deeper into your subconscious to see where you're holding yourself back and how to shift that belief. So all I knew was when it was time for me to record the podcast, I was just like, I don't really want to do that. This is just last week. And so I was like, okay, what's going on, Toyin? So I know how to use this diamond effect process, and I pretty much sit down with my brain to search my subconscious to see what was holding me back from doing this episode, this very episode that I'm speaking to you guys about. And what I realized was I was feeling massively disappointed in myself. Now, what do I mean by that? I felt like I had let myself down with the pause. So we had a break in the podcast from I think June or July till November at that point, right? It was very end of November. So there's been a pause in the podcast till now. And I truly felt like I had let not even anybody else but myself down. Because I mean, for you guys, the podcast is free. Whether I do it or I don't do it, you will listen to a podcast. You will go find something. You know what I'm saying? But this was about coming into the year. I had said to myself, Toyin, you're going to do this podcast. It's going to be, this regularity. This is our schedule. Consistency is very important to me. And here I was in November, end of November, and I didn't do the podcast for like 4 or 5 months. And I felt like I had disappointed myself. Now, let me give you, you're going to laugh when you hear this part. Now, let me give you some context to that though, because this year has actually been an extremely successful year for my clients, for myself. This year has literally been my personal best year yet, ever. Best. I mean, in this year, I had a full human being I gave birth to. I held and cared for in my womb and carried for the 9 months and got to the end and birthed. It was the best birth process of my entire life. She's my third, and it was because I was intentional. I had got coaching, trained myself to have this ecstatic birthing experience, and it happened that way. It was amazing. I've been momming, coming back into the business since October. I'm doing the stay awake at night because you're feeding, and I'm killing it still. My family, we moved across cities this year into our absolute dream home. This is also a year where, I did all of these things while, no, there's one other thing. We had major transitions happen in our business. And in this year, our clients blew up, right? We had a client, Imuna, tell me just this week, she's like, Toyin, for the first time in 8 months, but also most of my life, it's the end of the month and I have money. I got money. I'm not in overdraft. I'm not wondering. I'm not moving things around. I have money. What? And then she goes, but more than that, my brain doesn't feel the urge to spend that money like I used to. I used to not have money because I had to spend it somehow on something, and emergencies would come up just so I could get that money gone. So she's talking to me about that. Or Glavdia, one of our clients who went from earning, guys, listen to this. She went from earning $90,000 annually to $117,000. And she got a $117,000 bonus. Plus an extra $13,000 bonus on top of that for her children's education. Okay, in the same year, we had another client, we have so many of them, but I just want to give you guys a sense of just how much success we built this year in the business. We had another client, she's a business owner, and she's had her by far best year ever. And because of that, she had enough cash flow, more than enough cash flow, to move her entire family across the United States to a different state, and on cash, everything cash, so that her sons could have the education of their dreams. The whole family's dreams was this one school. She had the cash to be yep, we'll pay for the school for both of you, and we'll pay to move the whole house all the way over there and live over there for y'all. Having that level of freedom for her own children. Or another client of ours, OD. Hey girl, I know you're listening to this podcast. Hello. Who got a new job that took her from $110,000 to $163,000, and they came to her. She didn't trigger that process. She didn't go asking. They literally came to her. Plus now she's working remote. She has her time back, which is her most valuable asset. So this is that year. We had another client who had a baby this year. And, like me, all the moms who run business had a baby this year and still had her best year ever while taking a few months off for maternity leave. Another client who crossed the $1 million mark in her company this year. Many of them actually did that. Steve landed a 5-figure increase just 2 weeks ago. Tamara got her 3rd rental property, launched a new business this year, sold multiple 5 figures on her release weekend. That stuff happened this year. In this year, I was also quite sick. So it's looking at the facts, right? So what are the facts? The facts was, in this year, I was pregnant with the baby, was on my couch for months. Y'all already heard about it. I don't want to go into all the story of it, but we had COVID, I got food poisoning, then the food poisoning led to gut issues, and then I lost my voice for a full month. And still, with all of that, our clients hit this success, and we still have our best year ever. We're on track to double what we did last year. We're going to hit the double mark this month. We're not rolling with small numbers. We're rolling with big numbers in themselves. So doubling in itself is not a small thing. So in the face of this massive amounts of success, why on earth was I bothered about a simple podcast that didn't even hold back our business from growing in revenue? Like, it's not even like, oh, the podcast impacted our revenue and blah, blah, blah. No, it was literally just, I do this podcast because I love you guys and I truly want to bring this message to you guys. So why am I bothered about the podcast, and why am I procrastinating, or even literally the thought of procrastinating it? Why was that happening? Honestly, guys, because I care about my word to myself. I care about showing up. I care about consistency. It's a value for me. And if you're a high achiever and you're listening to this, you my peoples, you know that even if you create something that, like, anybody looking into what we created and what I created this year would be like, oh my gosh, that's my dream year. It is. It's been my best year, and I'm so grateful for it. And I wake up literally almost in tears. I go to bed almost in tears of gratitude. Like, I am extremely grateful. I'm just sharing with you guys the area of sabotage, even in the middle of the success. Okay. Anybody else could look at this and be like, well, you're doing better. You're already improved on before. You're doing better than, your clients are doing better than their peers, all of those things. But if you're a high achiever, you understand that I'm not out here to do better than others. I'm not here to compete with anybody else. I am Toyin Crandell. I am my own person. And your goals, and for me, my goals and my word to myself is for me. It's about who I am being. And so when I had said to myself, I'm going to do this podcast as a schedule, guys, this is how intense my brain can get about just being excellent. And why is that? Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And that's a belief of mine. And if you are being coached by somebody who doesn't have that belief, you need to check it, because you need people to lead you who care about their word, who care about their word to themselves, who care about their word to you, who care about how they're showing up in the world, and aren't doing things just to compete with the next person, but are doing things because, for me, I want to be my absolute best. I want to see what Toyin Crandell is truly capable of. And some of y'all are listening to me and you haven't challenged yourself at this level. So if you have people around you that are clapping for you and saying, oh, you did such a good job, oh, look at you, you're settled, you're good, you don't even care. And it's like, to wake up and have a standard for yourself that is higher than the standard that everyone else around you wants to give you. So this is where I ended, right? I'm sitting there, I do this work, we literally have a process to bring the stuff to the surface, and I bring it to the surface, and I see that even though I'm waking up and going to bed in gratitude, and I killed this year, and I know I killed this year, and I feel amazing about this year in this one area, the podcast, I felt like I had failed. I felt like I had let myself down, like I had let y'all down. And so what did I do to fix it? The first thing, and now I'm training y'all. So take notes, get out a pen, get out a paper, write this stuff down, because this is going to save your life. Because like I said, every person on this planet goes through this experience. Okay? And share this episode with your friends. I really mean that. So what's the first thing you're going to do? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to acknowledge reality. And what do I mean by that? Like, I stopped doing the podcast in July because I was sick. Like, I literally couldn't talk for a month at a point in all of that happening. I was coaching my clients throughout the year, but I remember a couple of my coaching calls with my clients where literally I had a client who volunteered. He was like, I'll do it. Thank you, O'Neill. He was my voice for the coaching call for like a few weeks where people were like scaling their businesses. Toyin, what do I do about this? How do I do this? They're organizing financial decisions. How do I move the money? And da-da-da-da-da. And so they're asking me these questions. I truly don't even have a voice. And so I'm typing the response in the chat of Zoom, and he would say it out loud for the sake of the recording so that it was like there, so that they could search it and all that good stuff. And we did coaching calls in that way for about 3 or 4 weeks where he would be my voice or another coach of mine would be my voice in the room. Now, you can do that in a coaching room because we took our time about it. They were extremely gracious. It was the side effect after we had COVID. So it was just like, this is reality. This is what it is. And my top priority was to be able to be present with the pregnancy, my family, and my clients. And yes, I love to serve and to share and to give to as many people as possible. But I remember in that moment making that decision, my priority is to take care of the people that are closest to me, including myself. And so like acknowledging reality, like also you can't do a podcast by typing in the chat and having somebody else be your voice. So I acknowledge reality. That's the first thing you need to do. Last week when I saw myself hesitate, I sat down and I just acknowledged, Toyin, you're a human being. And yeah, you rarely ever get sick. But this year, you got hit, my dear. And that's okay. And to truly release all the judgment around it. And it was so interesting because when I did that, so this is the breakthrough you guys are going to have when you allow yourself to do this process truly, deeply, honestly. I realized that I actually won by not doing the podcast for those months. Why? Because my first top priority is to honor God. It's to love God and live for him and be known by him and to know him. My second top priority is to be present to my family. And to be present to my family this year meant taking care of my health. I have 2 little toddlers and taking care of that baby that was in my belly. And so when I realized it, I was like, oh yeah, that is actually my right thing to do. Everyone has different values. Everyone has different things. But I realized I actually did what was right. So yes, I have a value of being consistent. I have a value of showing up in my business and showing up 100%, giving it all I've got. Yes, I have these values, but a higher value to me is taking care of Toyin Crandell. A higher value to me is that my children have a mom for as long as humanly possible, 120 years, baby. And I know that the only way for them to have me, for my husband to have this wife, this babe of his, okay? For my husband to have me for as long as possible is if I take care of myself. This is the conversation I had in my own brain. Wasn't me abandoning the podcast. It was me showing myself, yeah, I am still a priority in this picture. And the business has not and will not get to a place where I am willing to sacrifice my actual higher values, my health, my family, my relationship with God for the sake of money. And realizing that if I had continued to just push through and grind and do the podcast, then I would actually have been putting money or business or ministry for some of y'all over the things that were more important. And guys, I talk to you all the time about rest and ease and flow. I talk to you guys all the time about that dance and that balance between pushing yourself and giving your all and taking care of yourself and knowing when it's laziness, because sometimes it's laziness. I just laughed at myself. That was really funny. Sometimes it's laziness, and sometimes you truly need to pause. And you need to know the distinguishment between those two things. So, one, what do you do, guys? I hope you are writing this down, and I hope you're tracking with me. And I want you to say it out loud. Wherever you are, you're going to say it out loud. What is the first step that you do when you feel like you had massive failure? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to acknowledge reality. You're going to acknowledge what really happened. What's the truth in this situation? Then the second thing you're going to do, and I don't care what that reality is, you're going to forgive yourself. You're going to forgive yourself. And what do I mean by that? I mean, in this example, even though like I chose a higher value and all these things, it was better for me that I did what I did, my brain still feels disappointed in myself. So instead of arguing with myself about, well, you should have just put through, just get over it now, Toyin. You know now that you did it and you did the right thing. So just move on. No, pause and forgive yourself. Acknowledge yourself. Give yourself a break. And that's what I did. I was like, Toyin, you're a human being. I said it already. And human beings get sick sometimes. Oh, but I eat healthy and I take my supplements and I do all this stuff and all my other pregnancies were better. Toyin, that's okay. Getting sick is not a sign of failure. It just happens sometimes. So truly, deeply forgiving yourself. And it felt so good. It felt so good. And if any of you guys ever get stuck on this piece, like I try to forgive myself. I really do, but I know I haven't. I know I'm still feeling it. I know I'm still carrying it. Then maybe you need to have a conversation with my team. Because the reason I can do all of what I'm sharing with you guys in one sitting, in one conversation with myself in the space of like 15 minutes and do all of this and be like, okay, cool, let's go, is because of the work. Like our diamond effect process is on training your brain to not sabotage yourself any longer. So anyway, that is number 2. Number 1, acknowledge reality. I hope you said that with me. Number 2, forgive yourself. And then number 3, this is the most important one. Get back on the horse and crush the thing them. If you don't understand that lingo, kill it. If you don't understand that one as well, do an amazing job. Get back on the horse and show up. That's what I did. I said, okay, cool, Toyin, we've been paused. We couldn't help it then, but I can help it now. And it was interesting because it wasn't just the podcast, it was all of social media. Like I stayed, like, because I was ill, I wasn't doing anything with social media. It was just draining to me, so I didn't want to do it. So my social media, if y'all check it, like I think this year, it's 2022. It was blank from like March to now. I haven't even posted in Instagram. I don't care about that one. But like, it was just, I really was off of most social media. So what did I do when I had this conversation? I came back online. And not only did I come back online, and now I did my preferred platform, which is Facebook right now. That is my preferred platform. But I came back on Facebook, came back into the business online. And when I came back, it was 100%. I'm here, I'm back. Let's go, let's do this. We went viral already. I have a clearer mission. Hello, I'm recording the podcast. And literally the only reason I did the podcast a week later is because there were so many other things that I was like, let's get it all back. But here we are recording the podcast. We are currently in the process of creating 100 multimillionaires in the next 2 years out of our community while there's a recession going on. Yeah. Y'all heard me. Y'all heard me say that. And so it's like, we're doing all this stuff and there's no more hiding. And I'm just like, I'm back. So what is my point to you guys? My point to you guys is this. Sometimes life will life for you. They say when life is lifing. That's the latest slang. If anyone's watching this 30 years from now, they're going to be like, what the heck is that? Life is lifing? But yes, this is what we are saying in these days, in these streets. When life is lifing, you can't help it. But after you process it, you get back to it and you continue to build. And the truth is, guys, at this stage, thank God, I'm no longer building because, my family needs it and I need it and da-da-da-da. Like, I'm a financial coach. I'm showing y'all how to build your millions and multiply your millions. By the grace of God, I've got our stuff set because I can't do fake. Y'all know me. So we've got our stuff set. My family is good. We're like literally, when it comes to investments, all these things, you guys have seen the episode I did, 11 streams of income. So it's like things can be set for us, but I acknowledge that there are people out there who need me. And that's the same for you guys. There are people out there who need you. They need your shine. They need you to get back up. They need you to show up so that they know anything is possible in any amount of time. They need to know what you have. And so if you're looking at your life, you're looking at your business revenue, you're looking at your career, and you're feeling disappointment, not because you failed to other people. I get that part, okay? It's not because you failed in the way that other people may see it, but because you know that you're not actually at your potential. You know that you're actually sabotaging yourself. You know that you could have done it differently. And for some of you, you see it and you feel stuck because you can see yourself sabotaging yourself. You feel that disappointment and you just can't get out of it. You can't shake yourself. And so what do? You're going from events to events. You're going from coach to coach. You're looking for external motivation, YouTube videos, podcasts, all sorts of things to try to externally motivate yourself. And what I'm trying to say to you, and especially if you're listening to this podcast, out of that place, is that it can come from within you. But it will only come from within you if you actually figure out what that belief, what the limiting beliefs are that have now come up out of that failure, and fix it from the root. You can actually go inward and fix this stuff instead of waiting for it to come to you outward. So I don't have someone else who told me, Toyin, you must do the podcast by this date. Nope. Nobody told me. I'm the one who feels the freedom and now the fire, the motivation, the like oompa, whatever it is that you want to call it, to get back to it. I love it. This is what I do. This is what I want to do. And there's no more ick in the process. And so if this is you, then the first thing you want to do is follow the process I just outlined. Acknowledge the reality, forgive yourself, and get back to it. And if you know that you need help or you need a system to actually pinpoint what the beliefs are that have come up because of it, or what beliefs maybe even created that failure or created that sabotage, then don't waste another day. Don't waste a week. Don't waste a month. Some people have this stuff happen to them and they don't get back to the thing for a year, for 6 months. They just live in this limbo state and the business just is plateaued. So what do I want to say to y'all? If that is you, book a call with myself and my team. It is moneymindsetShift.ca/call. Once again, it's moneymindsetShift.ca/call. If you know that you are really ready, y'all, to finally be able to create without internal hindrance, to create without the ick, to create knowing that you are who you are and you are unapologetic about it, then contact me, speak to my team, moneymindsetShift.ca/call, and let's show you that diamond effect process. Let's walk with you through it to help you to actually unclog all of this stuff and figure out what the limiting belief is and actually get you on the other side. And we will help you to create a plan so that you can still hit your goals. Because at the end of the day, that's what's helped me this year to still hit massive success despite all the stuff that was happening. There was something internal that would help me every single step of the way to make sure it never held me back. I love you guys. I am so glad to be back here. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye. Hey millionaires, thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you want to subscribe, there's a little picture of me right here. Click on that. And if you want to have a free financial breakthrough session with my team, then you can go on ahead and click on the button right here or visit moneymindsetShift.ca/call. I'll see you guys on the next show. Bye-bye.